Do you have any resources with regards to, you talked about bowel movements. I've done HCG. I just recently finished phase 3 and I'm in phase 4.
Okay.
But with the bowel movements, I didn't know what to do because the diet is so strict. You can't obviously add fiber. There's a lot of things you can't add, and so I would go 2 to 3 days. And that's very atypical for me. So do you have resources that would help with that process?
Yes, there are. So the question is then that while you're on the HCG diet, I mean, what should you do? I mean, what are some practical things that you can do? In my practice, I use a product that I like a lot. It's called Lower Bowel, and it's just a combination of different herbs that helps them to promote then bowel movement. Fiber, you can use fiber somewhat during your HCG diet. However, if you are blocked already, fiber is just like a bulking agent. So it will promote peristalsis, but if there's a little bit of a blockage, it can promote even more blockage. It's like adding more substance in an area that's already blocked. It's like if you're driving on a freeway and there's a block there, adding more cars to it is not going to decrease the block. It's going to make it worse. So that's why, for instance, like psyllium husk is a common fiber product that people use. And yes, people will then, it will support bowel movements, but what you're not seeing is that it actually will create more issues in the long run. So if it's not moving out properly, it can become like cement actually in the intestine. So it can really aggravate it. So you want to make sure that you use other things to kind of help to support the peristalsis in that way. So any other questions about, please, Becky.
I have 2 questions about this. I'm wondering where people are at nutritionally after 21 days, how you can get enough nutrition in your body during that time is one question. Mm-hmm. The other one is I have a friend who's on this diet, and I know she has kidney problems. Mm-hmm. So if she drinks lemon water or something, is there a natural way that she can ensure to support her kidneys?
There are first question then, will you get enough nutrition during these 21 days? Yes, there is enough nutrition actually in the fatty tissue to support you during those 21 days. And that's not just calorie nutrition, it's actually vitamins, minerals, etc. And that will be released as you are then burning the fat. So you'll have that support. Second question, kidneys, what can you do to support those? And again, there are a number of wonderful herbs. I mean, lemon water is a great way. You also have herbs like horsetail, or another name for it is called shave grass. And that's a wonderful herb to help to support the kidney function. You have goldenrod, is this fantastic herb also. Corn silk is another herb. All these are excellent in supporting the kidney function. You have other herbs that you can use that you want to use in kind of smaller quantities, like parsley. If you do too much, it can be a little bit irritating, but at a small quantity, it helps to support the kidney function somewhat. So, any other questions about? Please, Becky.
What about hormones when you're saying that it works on that? Mm-hmm. So if you've had like a complete hysterectomy and stuff like that, mm-hmm. What's the difference? How's that going to do it when it's telling it to release things that you're not going to be able to release?
When you have a hysterectomy, the way the hormonal system functions is that there's a biofeedback mechanism between, you have the hypothalamus, pituitary, which are more of the governing glands in the brain that sends the signals and governs the function of the ovaries, the adrenals, the thyroid, etc. But there's a feedback mechanism then from the ovaries to the pituitary that will then activate then the pituitary or deactivate it, depending on what's going on. So if you have a complete hysterectomy, you remove then the ovaries, you actually break that cycle in a way. You break that feedback mechanism. So, which means that the hypothalamus and the pituitary then have to work harder because it's continually looking for that feedback signal. So to doing something like this, like the HCG diet, actually would be beneficial because you then strengthen that part of the body. You strengthen the hypothalamus and the pituitary by doing it. So does that answer your question? Okay, great. Please.
What if you had it done a long time ago, for 20 or some years?
I'm sorry, you're screwed. No, just kidding. The body has an amazing ability to compensate. It's incredible. So after a while, it's still going to be a little bit of a handicap. But when you've done it, when it's taken place that long ago, then the body has found some kind of a balance that it functions under. But it still has a certain amount of stress. It still had to rely more on the hypothalamus and the pituitary still, even though it was done 20 years ago. So you would still have a very good benefit at that time. So, great. You're welcome. So, any other questions, please?
I guess I'm confused over the long haul. So you do the program and you lose all the weight you want to lose, and then say 3 years down the road, exactly where are you? You have reset to where you only eat now a certain amount of calories, so you have to be proactive with yourself, right?
Well,
I mean, it's kind of like being on that diet for eternity, right?
No. So the question is, what happens on three years down the road? Yeah, where are you at? I mean, do you have to be on this kind of a diet forever? The key is that when the hypothalamus functions properly, you should be able to eat pretty much whatever you want that's healthy. I mean, of course, you can still, if you're eating too much sugar or you're exposed to too much chemicals continually, it will cause a dysregulation in the hypothalamus. So after doing this program, the hypothalamus then corrects itself to some point. I mean, you still have toxins in the system. I mean, all toxins are not going to disappear within this short period of time. So it's still going to be battling some of those toxins. So, but it will be then corrected to some point after doing this. So if you do not then create more stress on it by introducing things, like high sugar diet or or eating habits, it will stay at a good function for 3 years, for 10 years. So the body is set up in such a way that it takes care of itself. It doesn't go into a dysregulation of normal functioning because it wants to, because it does that as a compensation because we are throwing it out of harmony. Yeah. So that's what's so amazing with this, that if it's done right, then even if you eat more than what you normally would have, your weight stays the same. It stays within that window continually. So it doesn't really go up, and it may go down, but sometimes I see that you have to take some measures also to kind of have it go down after that. So that's what's so great with it. So any other questions? I've answered them all. Please.
How many times can you do it in a row?
You need to have a waiting period in between.
How long?
Usually the first time, in between the first two, it's at least 6 weeks. Then they suggest that you increase each time, increase amount of time in between as you do it more often. I don't see that as a problem when you use homeopathic drops. So I usually suggest just 6 weeks in between. The reason why they wanted to space out more frequently was initially just use the hormone, and you can then, I mean, by inject the actual hormone, and you can then become desensitized to the hormone where it's not where it doesn't function as well if you do it too often. So that's why there's a limited amount of time that you can do it initially, which is, as I said, the 42 days, and then you need a six-week rest, and then you can do it again. But when you do homeopathic, it's a little bit fuzzier. Yeah, you don't need to have to be as exact. I've still seen good results. So, please.
Do they see a big difference between the actual hormone and the homeopathic drops? Is there
It's actually the difference between the actual hormone and the homeopathic drops. I've seen some people respond better to the homeopathic drops, and some people respond better to the actual hormone. So I can say that homeopathic drops are always better. It is sometimes better. What I like about it, though, is that it supports a body to function better after it is done. So it supports the body's own functioning better. So that
I mean, is there that possibility of overdose, kind of? I suppose?
To overdose a homeopathic drops is quite hard.
Okay.
So I actually have people just do 20 drops 3 times a day, or 10 drops 6 times a day.
Okay.
So, and that works perfectly fine.
Okay, because
So-
I came out, it was a 40-day supply, and I came out like 6 days short, and I thought, oh no.
Yeah.
I'm screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. You're done. So, it's actually, most people like it because it's very structured. They know what they're going to eat. There's no question about it. And the protein, it needs to be 100 grams, and you want to make sure that it's a protein that's not a fatty kind of protein. So if you do fish, it's better than to do like a white fish rather than a salmon. You cannot do salmon because of the fatty component. And also with the meat, you just want to make sure that it's a lean meat. So you want to have it 100 grams prior to being cooked. So, and that's twice a day. And then vegetables, as I said, there are 2 servings of vegetables, and it's about a large handful of vegetables. And they're just certain kinds of vegetables, and it's outlined in the program that you can find on the internet quite easily, what vegetables those are. And then 2 servings of fruit, and that can be either apple, orange, grapefruit, strawberries, and they can be done at any time in the day. So usually what I suggest is maybe do the fruit in the morning, then for lunch have a protein and vegetable, and then dinner, protein, vegetable, and then have another fruit as a night snack. Or maybe have the fruit between lunch and dinner. So it's very, very easy that way. And it's such a small amount of the hormone compared to what a person would have. It's actually a hormone that's produced quite a bit when you're pregnant. And the reason why that hormone is produced then is because you want to make sure that the baby has energy continually. So you want to make sure that that process from the fatty storage, that can be utilized easily so that the baby have energy between meals, so that the baby never, or the fetus never will suffer then from starvation at any time. So it just opens up that pathway that we then utilizes, and during the HCG diet, that abnormal fat can be utilized for energy quite easily.